G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Drux Milan Unboxing. We're riding on a bit of a high here in South Africa. Azingov, a golden boy Fuzile, won his IBF World Title Eliminator. So that means him and Steven Onchinga are all both guaranteed an IBF title shot, probably next year sometime or end of this year. But another South African is at it tomorrow night, Friday night in St. Petersburg, Russia. I'm talking, of course, about probably one of the big characters of South African boxing, Ryno the Lion Liebenberg, who is rejuvenated and he's going into what might be his final fight. He wants that big win overseas. He's always gotten close. He's always not gotten the nod on the judges' card overseas. He's been robbed many times. Record of 21-7-1. With 14 knockouts is very deceptive. A lot of those losses were of a controversial kind. He's rejuvenated himself by upsetting and stopping Rowan Campbell. I say upset, but it's a very 50-50 fight. I actually had Rowan picked for that. About half the other people had Ryno for that. But he looked as good as he's ever looked, or even better at the age of 37. And he's got something big on Friday night because he's taking on the Russian Fedor Chudinov. Now, Chudinov has got a very good record on paper, 23 wins, 16 knockouts, only 2 defeats and 1 draw. And that will be for, depending on who you believe, it's reported that's for a WBA interim super middleweight world title. BoxRec has it for a WBA gold super middleweight title. And, well, whatever it is for a belt. If it's Ryno's last fight, it's a great win to say goodbye with that WBA belt. But he's got something in front of him, and that is Fedor Chudinov. Now, Chudinov is a guy who's been there and done that. He's a former WBA world champion himself. He won the WBA world title by beating a very well-known German long-reigning Felix Sturm for the vacant WBA title. And then he lost it back to Sturm with a controversial majority decision, and or split decision, I can't recall what it was. Sturm tested positive for a banned substance, and then he fought George Groves again for the world title, and it was a terrific fight. It was there on the undercard of Errol Spence against Kell Brook, I believe. And go look it up on YouTube, Fedor Chudinov against George Groves. And Groves eventually managed to stop him in the 6th round. And since then, he's had 9 wins on the trot, and his last fight he had a draw against South African-based Malawian Isaac Chalemba. And if we look at Chudinov, he's got a very basic style. He's got a very steady pressure fighter, meaning steady. He doesn't throw volumes of punches, but he's got his hands up like that, very basic stuff, and he keeps chugging forward, and he just keeps coming and coming and coming. And he's heavy-handed. He hasn't got that snapping punch like a Deontay Wilder or a Julian Jackson that just ices a guy and is out, but he's got heavy hands. You could see in the Chalemba fight, he was outboxed and outworked for much of that fight by Chalemba, but you could see the impact of his punches. He's not knocking his opponent out with a shot, but every time he throws a jab or he hits a few shots, you could see it in Chalemba's body that the shots have impact. So he's a heavy-handed guy. But Chalemba and the guy before him, almost everybody Chudinov fights, even going back to the Groves fight, they hit him with a jab, they hit him with a hook around the guard, they hit him with uppercuts, they hit him with everything in the book. You know, it's hard to say what can you not hit Chudinov with. And I think that's also part of a danger. Chudinov sort of reminds me a little bit of another Russian, Ruslan Provodnikov. You know, he goes to war in every single fight, so he's a fan-friendly kind of fighter. But there's no finesse about Chudinov. So how come he has gotten that far? I think he's a heck of a sturdy guy. Groves stopped him, but he was still right on his feet, still standing there. It was just too many unanswered punches, and he got stopped. But I think he's got a hell of a strong chin, Chudinov has. He doesn't cut easily. And he's just a very tough, strong guy. Very tough, strong Russian. Not finesse, but he keeps coming at you, and his shots are heavy, even though it's not those one-and-done kind of punches. You don't want to be with Chudinov with your back on the ropes or in the corner. That's where he had his success with Chalemba, and that's what probably saved him in the end. One judge at Chalemba winning, one at Chudinov winning, one at a draw. Most people at Chalemba by a point or two. But anyway, so on the last form, Ryno looking terrific against Rowan Campbell. Chudinov not looking good, so good against Isaac Chilemba. You've got to say Isaac Chilemba has fought them all, and everybody has to work to beat Isaac Chilemba. So you have to put it in there as a qualifier. Based on their last form, this looks like a very, very winnable fight for Ryno Liebenberg. It would be a fairy tale ending of his career or rejuvenation. If he looks really good, he's going to fight on. But Chudinov is a former world champion. He is ranked number 9 in the world by The Ring magazine. He's also in the top 10 by BoxRec, if you put any stock in those rankings. So he is a bona fide world-class fighter, and that's because of his toughness and his strength. I think he's strong. He's a sort of a broad-bodied guy. He's slow, he's hittable, very hittable, but I think guys hit him with everything, and sometimes they stay too long with him in front of the ropes or there, because what's amazing about Chudinov is he just keeps walking through the punches. Now, Isaac Chilemba we know is not a puncher. Ryno Liebenberg, 14 knockouts in his 21 wins. Chudinov 16 knockouts in his 23 wins. I think that the power is more or less the same in terms of knockout ratio. I think Chudinov hits harder with every shot. Ryno maybe has a bit more whiplash in some of his punches. And I do believe super middleweight is a good weight for Ryno Liebenberg. You know, when we were in the bubble, both Ryno and his trainer manager Colin Nathan said we should have gone to super middleweight much earlier in my career. He's competed most of the time at light heavyweight, so I think he'll be able to take what Chudinov can dish out. And it depends here on what Liebenberg does, number one, and number two, on how well Chudinov takes Liebenberg's shots. Is it going to make him think twice before marching in? Chudinov has marched through everything that's been thrown at him so far in his career, but I think in this fight, I'm sort of thinking through South African boxing history. I'm a bit sentimental. I would really like Ryno Liebenberg to have a fairy tale ending to his career. It makes me think of Sugar Boy Malinga, who also had a lot of robberies in his career, eventually winning a world title against Nigel Benn. He was listed at 37, the same as Liebenberg at that time. Later it came out he was actually 40, and then he beat not only Nigel Benn, Robin Reed later. And I'm thinking of Dingaan Tobela later in his career at super middleweight, beating Glenn Catley for the WBC title. Now you can say, come now, Ryno Liebenberg isn't nearly the talent that Dingaan was, and he's not as crafty and slick as Sugar Boy. You are right, but Fedor Chudinov is no Nigel Benn, right? You also have to keep that in mind. So I think Ryno's got a great chance of winning this fight. Kudos to Corin for getting him this fight. He's on the road again. It's almost impossible to win in places like Germany and the UK. I think you can win on the road in Russia. Depends on who the promoters are and so on. I don't know this promoter. You know, Ilunga Junior Makabu has been able to win on the road there, as has Jackson Chauke. So it is possible. You just got to do it convincingly. And I think for Ryno in this fight, he's got to do a bit of both. He likes to brawl, he likes to roll, as they say in Krugersdorp. He's got to be careful not to brawl with Chudinov for long stretches, but he'll have to do it in spots. And I think the key for Ryno Liebenberg, they're about the same height. I think the reach is about the same. I don't know what Ryno's reach is, but I think they're around about the same height. Chudinov is a broader, more stout guy. And I think the reach will be more or less the same. I'm not sure 100% of that. But Ryno is going to have to use his jab here. You can't miss Chudinov with a jab. Chilemba was successful. He's got to have consistency with a jab, make it a power jab, throw it right straight down the pipe. And one thing that I saw does work against Chudinov, that Groves used to sort of finally get him, force a stoppage. Do that Hecky Butler move. Take a step to your right and throw the right hand, and step to your right and throw the right hand again around the gloves. That works with Chudinov. The main thing is you've got to keep Chudinov from doing what he's doing, so Ryno needs to stay off the ropes. If you're on the ropes, either step away, step around him, or grab Chudinov and walk him backward if you can. I don't know if Ryno's strong enough to walk Chudinov backward. We'll see. So Ryno's got to use his jab, exchange in spots, and keep going around Chudinov. And Chudinov is always going to do what he's going to do. For him, he's going to fight his usual style. He's going to come forward. He's going to land his heavy shots. And he's going to have to try and target those eyes of Liebenberg, because Ryno does cut, try and force a stoppage. Or just land the more eye-catching blows and keep it close enough so that he'll get the decision on the judge's card. what's going to happen here? Obviously, Chudinov will be the favorite, but I just think finally Ryno Liebenberg's luck might be changing. I think Chudinov, he's never been a speedster, he's always got an hit, but if I look at his last fight against Chilemba, his fight before that against Sadiq, compare it to the George Groves fight and the Sturm fights, he always takes punches, but to me, his feet is a little bit slower. He's lost a slight step there, and he's even a bit more rigid in his upper body than he used to be. So I think Chudinov is a guy that's ripe for the pickings. At some stage, somebody is going to beat him, and I think this might well be Ryno Liebenberg. He's either got to just keep pounding him and try and hope that all that mileage on Chudinov's clock catches up to him and he just gets stopped, or he does enough to win it on the judges' card. Difficult, but I think he can do it if he does it convincingly. I don't think Chudinov is the golden boy anymore like some other fighters in Russia. He's got to do that. And Ryno also has miles on the clock, although you didn't see it in the Rowan Campbell fight. But he's got a different kind of opponent in front of him now, more rigid, more stiff. But I think Fedor Chudinov is a lot stronger than Rowan Campbell is, and he's got harder hands. So it's to me not a clear favorite for Chudinov. I'm going to stick my neck out here. You know, if I pick against our guys, I always hope I'm wrong, like I was against Azinga Fuzile. But now I hope I'm right, and I think Ryno Liebenberg, it's his time. He's got the right momentum behind him. I mean, no less than Rodney Berman once told me that timing is everything in boxing. It's when you fight a guy. Now, it didn't work out for him against Rowan Campbell or against Ryno, but we were talking about a different fight at that stage, and I think the timing to fight Chudinov is right. So I think Ryno Liebenberg is going to grind this one out and score an upset decision. I think he'll outbox and he'll outwork Chudinov. He'll bleed. He'll take some shots. He's going to have to work hard for it. But in the end, I think one judge is going to give it to Chudinov, and Ryno might just get over a point or two on the other two cards. Finally have his luck turn. He's up against it, but that's just my feeling. I think Ryno Liebenberg is going to edge this one and is going to pull it off. Whatever happens, I think style-wise, the only thing that can spoil this fight if they start head-butting each other and it becomes a roughhousing affair. That's possible, but I think we are in for a treat. I think it will be a fantastic fight as long as it lasts, because these are two styles that will blend to make for a war. So whatever happens, I hope as a South African Ryno pulls it off. But I think it's going to be a fantastic fight between Fedor Chudinov and Ryno Liebenberg. It's being shown here on South Africa on SuperSport. If you're sitting overseas, find a feed somewhere on YouTube or Facebook. Most of the Russian fights you can get that way. And good luck to Ryno Liebenberg. I think we are in for a great fight. Let's see if Fedor Chudinov has another run at the top left in him, or if he's ready to maybe get picked off. We'll all see on Friday night in St. Petersburg. And until we see each other again, remember to keep those gloves up.